Oh, look at
Right.
this. Oh
Here we
man,
are.
we are going
Live
live.
Splintered Spirits.
What's up, folks? Let's see
We,
who joins. Let's see if we get
yeah,
the people.
the good peoples.
The good peoples.
Who's
Welcome to
gonna?
Splintered Spirits. I'm saying welcome, but right now it's just me and you.
That's all right.
That's
They'll
all
probably
right.
see it on a delay anyway. And if you're watching after the fact, welcome.
Welcome. Yeah. We are in the future.
Yeah, we're in the yep,
We're
we're
in the
in the
future.
future.
If you
Yeah,
see like if the comet hits the earth, you'll hit us
get us
about a half
first.
a second
Yeah,
before
right.
it gets you.
So we have a very cool live guest tonight, right?
Yeah, we do. We do. But before we
Awesome.
get, yeah, absolutely. We'll tell about, I think it'll play into, because I want to hear a little about your trip and you could talk about your trip because I want to compare like battlefields, you know what I mean?
Okay.
To everything. And she'll be with us. She's joining us. She's already even, she's in the waiting room, but let me introduce her and give her a few minutes before we go.
Okay.
Um, I wanted to point out one thing. Have you ever, just something funny. I mean, look, the world was on fire this week. It was nuts, and I was trying to think like, how do I avoid talking about how Jimmy Kimmel got canceled and the free speech that's a problem, and the government starts attacking everybody. But instead, what made me laugh was I got a notification that like you got a new comment from one of our fans, and the fan's name was Squirrel Nut Sniffer, and I can't listen, Squirrel. If you're watching, I don't mean to be making fun of you, but I have to ask myself,
I love
you
the
know,
name.
you know, do you have like a job? Do you have a boss? Do you have children? Like when you say like my name is Squirrel Nut Sniffer, like what is it? What are we telling the people?
Yeah.
About ourselves. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And it's like, and listen, I get it. Maybe Susan was taken. Maybe Susan 2000 was taken. But then how do you go from like your name to, you know what I'm going with?
Yeah.
Squirrel Nut Sniffer. And it's
Squirrel nut
just,
sniffer.
and then you guys, I mean, I don't know, man.
I love the name.
I
I
love
do.
it.
I
I mean,
like
it's
it.
hilarious, but it also makes me want like, okay, how do we lock in on that?
Yeah.
How do we do it? You know?
Yeah, that I don't know.
Have you ever? So now it's like every name that all of our fans. I'm gonna really start looking at it and go,
Oh, they have great names. Some of them have amazing names. It's great.
oh
Yeah,
my
they
god,
really
that's
do.
nuts.
They really have some wild names. It makes me laugh
It's
on a
it,
daily basis.
that's nuts. Welcome everybody. Welcome to Splintered Spirits, the podcast where we talk about all things paranormal and really try to answer the question, what are spirits? I'm Gary. That's my nephew John Santa from Santa Paranormal. And John, you just got back from Gettysburg.
Oh, Gettysburg was amazing. It was just every part of the trip was just filled with energy, filled with fun, filled with laughter, and just amazing documentation. I went with, if you're not aware, to the people that are watching, which I'm pretty sure everybody is aware, I went with Chris Netzel, who we've had on the podcast before. He's got over 900,000 on TikTok, over 100,000 on Instagram. He's an awesome dude, and we had Brian the Mod with us as well, which was, he was a pivotal player in this entire trip, and it was just amazing. I mean, we got to do things that a lot of people in the paranormal field wish they can do with some of the spots we were allowed to go to, and the documentation on my end, which fulfilled, if you will, it was fulfilling,
Did
going
you
to
learn
Devil's.
anything? Did you learn anything about history
So I mean, I knew a
from the
lot of the.
spirits?
Well, I knew a lot of the basics when it came to the Civil War because I do enjoy history. What I found just so interesting was that Devil's Den, there was a lot of Native American talk, and the Devil's Den, the name itself is a native. It comes from a Native American legend. It had a lot of Native history before it did even Civil War history. So that was cool. That was like, what a treat.
Huh.
Like, what a treat. Like, I was ecstatic. It
Well,
just,
going along with those lines of history, we have a guest today. Uh, sh- she was referred to me by Rebecca the Ghost Guide,
okay.
and her name is Anika Enfield. But outside of the North, where you Yankees were, you and Brian, not Chris.
Yeah.
Anika's specialty is the South. She was a journalist and a producer. She spent years shaping Savannah's morning news at WSAV, and before she traded the newsroom for ghost stories. She's got a background in print communication and broadcast. She brings a reporter's precision to the legends of Savannah. I've never been to Savannah. I am dying to go to Savannah. It
I've
looks
never been to.
beautiful.
Yeah, I've heard it's amazing. I just haven't been.
I bet it's crazy. And during the pandemic, she began sharing Savannah's strangest history on TikTok and YouTube, which soon evolved into her own ghost tours. So I'm really, I wanted to bring her on talk, especially since this week that since you went to Gettysburg. Let's keep it historical. Let's keep a
Yeah.
little north v south as we get into Savannah's haunted story. So let's welcome in Anika. And as she joins us,
Hello.
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 Which way works best for y'all? Is this good?
You can do it that way. Probably landscape mode's probably a little bit better.
Okay.
I think the people will see you better. You might have your phone on lock or something.
No, I don't.
Well, just keep it like that if it's going to be too much of a...
Yeah, that's fine.
It's fine. We'll make it work.
Okay.
Welcome. Thank you so much.
Hey,
Thank you for joining us.
We were just talking, Anika, about John was at Gettysburg, which feels like the paranormal ghost hunter mecca. I feel like every ghost hunter on earth needs to go to Gettysburg at least once.
Mhm.
Are people interested in the spooky? Have you ever been?
Not yet. A lot of my friends have. I have not, but when I was in college, I was at the student union one day, and there was a historic interpreter there who goes up there a lot, and he actually saw a ghost regiment march by him one night.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Wow.
Anika, how did you get from being a news producer into touring for ghosts? Did something happen? Did you see something that changed your life? And then you went, the current events isn't where it's at. I'm going back to the past and telling these ghost stories.
Well, everything kind of plays into everything, because ghost stories, to me, it's just another way to tell history. A lot of people, unfortunately, think that history is really boring, but if you go stories in there and talk about paranormal encounters, suddenly you've got everybody's attention, right? And I always tell people that these are stories that we're supposed to learn from. You learn from the past.
Gotcha.
Working in broadcast news, I saw a lot of mistakes repeated over and over and over again. So
You mean like history
way
repeating itself, or things are
Yeah.
just the way our world is working? Yeah, in a negative way?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So you might as well deal with the dead, maybe learn from it. That's pretty interesting. So when exactly did you make that? So you said during the pandemic, that's when you really started to focus on this angle,
Yeah.
or was it more Savannah history first and then the spooky side?
I've always been interested in history and ghosts. I just wasn't really allowed to explore the paranormal growing up, because my dad was heavily evangelical. And if you've ever watched the documentary Happy Shiny People, like that was my family. That was my life growing up.
Wow.
So very, very religious. And you start questioning things as you get older. I went off to college and, started looking into some spooky stuff there because I went to college in Pensacola, Florida, which is another very old city. But I didn't really get into it until like 9 years after that, when I moved to Savannah, because Savannah has a lot of history, and that's part of the draw here is all the history that you can still see that's still around you. But it's also incredibly haunted. And I learned that before I even got the job, before I even moved here. I come up here for a job interview, and my friend Tukwin was showing me around Savannah the day after the job interview. And she's pointing at different buildings and telling me which buildings are haunted. And after a while, I was like, so they're just all haunted, right? And she was like, yeah, basically.
Now, did you experience anything?
Oh, yeah. My news
Tell us
station was
something.
haunted. I worked overnights, and, it's It's an older building. It's not old. It was built in the 1960s, but working overnights, you hear weird things. But when you're by yourself, you just tell yourself, yeah, it's probably just like a TV that somebody left on. And that's I'm just hearing like that little bit of volume on it. But then our crew grew a little bit and other people started hearing the footsteps and weird noises. There was one time where the station was working on the production booth where I, as a news producer, and my director would sit during the newscast. They had to move us upstairs, and the staircase goes down into the lobby. Our teleprompter operator was sitting up there with us, and he stopped during a commercial break and turned to look at us and asked, "Is there anybody else in the building?" We said, "No, it's us and the anchors you can clearly see on the monitor." And he says, "I keep hearing somebody walking around downstairs." And the more our crew grew, the more people started having these instances where they would hear somebody walking around or maybe hearing voices in the older part of the building. And then one day, the ghost ran in front of one of our cameras.
All right. So what did you see when when you say it ran in front of the camera, what does that mean? Like, what did you see? Like a shadow or something, or what?
I saw someone in a brown shirt run very quickly past one of the cameras.
You saw color.
Mm-hmm. And I stopped. I asked our teleprompter operator, who was sitting in the studio by this point, "Is there anybody else in the studio?" And he said, "Nope, it is me and the anchors, and we're all sitting down." And I turned to look at my director, and he's staring ahead at the monitor where someone just walked in front of it, and he just nods to say, "Yes, I saw that too." So I was like, okay, so Station Ghost is real. I found out later his name is
Station Ghost.
Byron.
Byron the Station Ghost.
Byron the
Okay.
Station Ghost. I talked to a guy who had worked at the station since the 1980s and asked him, "Do you have any idea who this is?" And he says, "Oh yeah, that's Byron." So you can't just say that's Byron like I know who that is. He was like, "Oh, Byron was an engineer. He's one of those old timers. Like his life was his job. He used to live behind the station, bought a house back there specifically so he would be closer to work. Passed away in the late 1980s. And then after that, people started hearing voices and footsteps. So he's still there."
So, Anika, what do you think spirits are?
I think they can be a lot of different things. I think
Now,
sometimes
we know they can be a lot of different things, but
Right.
what do you specifically think? This is what I think they are.
I think there are a lot of different things. I think sometimes it is a piece of our energy that we leave behind somewhere, maybe someplace that we have experienced something really extreme, like extreme grief or extreme happiness. I do believe there are also conscious hauntings that are the spirits of people who have died, who are coming back. So I think there's a combination of things there.
Okay, but when you say, I just want to dig in a little bit. When you say for those conscious hauntings, the spirits of people who have died, and they're what is that? What do you think that is?
I think that's just them.
But what? Okay, right. But what of them? Do you think it's a soul? Do you think it's like they're, what do you think it is? What do you think happens when you die?
I don't know, man. Like I grew up in such a religious household where you had to know what happens after death. And so now I'm just like, we don't know. Nobody really knows. We're all just trying
No,
to figure
nobody
it
does.
out.
The whole thing we try to do here is like, we ask that question, right? What are spirits? We ask it of everybody, by the way.
Hmm.
And it's, you can talk to parapsychologists and academia, people in academia and experts who study it, or ghost investigators, and they all have a different answer of what it is. Whether it's like you said, your first answer, is it a form of energy? Is it our energy, or that is, that energy has to be dispersed and go somewhere, and is consciousness attached to it? Is it an imprint somehow that people have left there? But again, what is that? Is that energy? Or for the religious, they do believe in a soul, like there is another thing, but they don't have an answer for what that thing is. And I always like to just we like to paint a picture and get different perspectives based on what people have seen and what they feel when this happens, to sort of paint that full picture, right? Of what could a spirit be, and does it mean something different to everyone, and how are they looking at it? For some people, it's all demons. Everything's a demon.
Yeah. That was my
Just
dad.
like,
That was my dad growing up. Everything's a demon.
right? Everything's a demon. And it's like, well, why do you feel that way? And it's not just everything's a demon, but it's why. Why do you feel that it's a demon? Why is it evil? Is there a heaven and hell, do you think? Is that what's happening when you go? Who knows, right? I mean, it is nuts. So getting back into a little history here, I mean, I've been watching your feed. I mean, you are so incredibly knowledgeable of it. When did you start doing that deep dive study of Savannah and say, I'm going to become the Savannah expert?
I'm incredibly spoiled here. We have so much easy access to our history, and a lot of it is incredibly well documented. I've traveled to other places and tried to research some of the things there, and it's so hard finding things when you travel because, yeah, Savannah, everything's just right there, right at your fingertips. But because of all that history and the fact that it's well documented, even when I was working in news, we would do stories about it. There would be an archaeological dig. Oh, we just discovered this thing. We didn't know that this was here before. We have an incredible Black History Month here, and the anchor that I worked with, primarily Kim Gusby, would put together the Black History Month special, and I would help her with it sometimes. And we also have a lot of Irish history because a lot of Irish people moved here in the mid
I saw that.
1800s.
Yeah, by the way, so John, I don't know if you know this. You said it was like the fourth biggest St. Patrick's Day celebration in the country.
We are always somewhere in the top 4. I think we bounce back and forth between 3 and 4.
I would never think Savannah when I think St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, not a lot of people do,
right?
unless you know.
I think Boston. I think Chicago.
Yeah.
Which is wild to me. That seems very fun. And you're saying, where does that stem from? Why was there so many Irish there?
The reason that a lot of Irish were moving to the country during that time, it was because of the potato famine. And a lot of them coming to Savannah were able to find easy work here because we're a very successful port city and we had the railroad. So it was easy for them to find work.
Got it. In your sort of spooky tours, do you think there's a difference, in sort of the way the North and the South remember the Civil War in ghost stories that you're sharing?
Yeah. A lot of people, when they come down, like with my private tours, I can specialize. So if somebody wants to learn more about Savannah's Civil War history and Civil War ghosts, I can focus in on that, even though Savannah has more Revolutionary War history than it does Civil War history, just because none of the Civil War was fought here. Outskirts, yes. In Savannah, no.
That's interesting. Okay.
But yeah, a lot of people come down, and I think a lot of people think they're going to ask me like some gotcha question when it comes to the Civil War. I was like, no, that was messed up. Slavery was everywhere. Even Savannah's own city government enslaved people. Like, it was awful, and it was
What
bad.
are they trying to get you? What do you mean gotcha? Like, what are they trying to bust you on?
Because they think that I'm gonna just like skip over it somehow. Like,
Skip
it really
over
wasn't
slavery?
that bad. Yeah. And I'm like, no, I think we can all agree that it was really bad. I don't go into graphic detail on my tours just because, you never know who's going to be on your tour. And that's a lot of trauma. I do talk about some darker aspects of Savannah's history, but I always try to be conscious of the fact that there are people on my tours who may have gone through similar things or who have a family history. And, you don't want to completely bum someone out on a ghost tour. It's supposed to be fun. But at the same time, you do want to be a little educational about it. So normally I will direct people and be like, and if you want to learn more about this, we have this museum here that you can go to, and they talk about it.
Got it. Gettysburg's about like one shattering event, right? It's this one big battle that everyone knows about. Does Savannah have something like that in its history that you point to or go to?
We have quite a few events. I told you we have more Revolutionary War history. Sure. One of the bloodiest battles of the American Revolution took place in Savannah. It's called the Siege of Savannah. Most people have never heard of it. It happened over the course of 4 weeks in 1779 and left somewhere around 150 British and between 1,000 and 1,200 Americans and French dead. Huge difference.
Yeah, they didn't teach us that in my New York Yankee school, but go ahead.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Huge difference in those numbers. And that might be why we don't hear about it so much, just because it was so incredibly one-sided. Uh, I tell people that it's a not so funny comedy of errors. If it could go wrong on the American side in that 4 week time period, it did. Uh, the bloodiest day was October 9th, where about 800 Americans and French died all in one day.
Oof. You win some, you lose some, America.
Yeah,
It
it was
seems.
bad.
So is that area more haunted, would you say?
So Savannah was significantly smaller in 1779. It has grown out, and some of the squares where the railroad would later be developed were all built on top of those battlefields. Um, Part of a French field hospital is where Bonaventure Cemetery currently stands. So we built out on top of it. So you don't get like what you get as Gettysburg, where people say, on a foggy night, we see troops marching across the field. There's no field. There's no field for them to march on.
Okay.
There's roads and
Wait, are there
squares and
bodies buried
buildings.
under everybody's house? Is that what you're saying?
Under some of them, yeah.
What?
If you go to the Georgia
It's like
State Railroad
poltergeist.
Museum, they'll talk about how when that whole area was being developed, I think it was around the 1830s, as like this big railroad hub. As they were digging, they were uncovering the skeletal remains of those soldiers that died on October 9th. And so they just reburied them and built on top of it.
Wait a minute. Hold on. They reburied them right there
Oh, yeah.
and built on top of that. They didn't like say, hey, we should put these soldiers somewhere where people can. They're just like, fuck them.
Yeah.
Let's just build this building over the top of it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Sure. I guess that's how it goes. John, it's not like that in Gettysburg, right? Is it?
No, no. Gettysburg, from my understanding, is very well like preserved. They don't allow you to do anything. So, and it's not, and where the battlefields are, it is just open. There's very few structures, couple farmhouses, maybe a couple of houses on the properties. That's it. The monuments. That's it. No, there's no development.
What's the most haunted place in Savannah?
So someone asked my friend Chris this recently, and he said that Savannah is the most haunted place in Savannah, and he's kind of right. There are certain areas that I would say are a little bit more active. River Street, I think, is an incredibly haunted area just because it's one of the older areas, and that used to be our port. And a lot of disasters have happened there, several fires. Of course, Savannah itself has caught on fire a number of times. I joke around that every building in Savannah has caught on fire at least once.
I learned this from watching your feed. It was mainly made of wood for a while, and then they had to make like enslaved made bricks, right? To start?
Yes. You can see fingerprints in some of the bricks made during that time.
Wild.
But aside from that, Wright Square, I think, is also very active. Taylor Square has its own activity. I don't think it's super active, but it's different.
What's the name of the cemetery that you mentioned earlier?
Bonaventure?
Is that the cemetery that has that famous child that's always people have caught running? Or am I thinking of another cemetery? There's like a famous
Colonial Park Cemetery. There was a family from Ohio in 2008 that recorded what they said was the ghost of a little boy running across the cemetery and up into a tree. And quite a few other people have seen ghost children in that area as well, because one, that cemetery was used from 1750 to 1853. So a lot of infant mortality, a lot of children buried there. And after the 1890s, it was turned into a park, an actual park.
Okay.
And so children played there for a really long time.
Wow.
That's dark.
Yeah.
It's a little dark.
Not,
right?
I mean, it is, but that was happening across the country during that time because the Victorians were obsessed with gardens and green spaces and parks. And if you live in a city, you can't just magically create a green space. But if you have an old cemetery that nobody's really using, you just tear down the walls, put in some benches and pathways, and boom, there you go. It's a park.
And John, what did we learn? Why are those so many children buried in cemeteries in that time period?
No
No
vaccinations.
vaccines, folks.
No vaccines.
That's
It's
why, if you're ever
science.
wondering,
It's
science, people.
science.
It's science,
The
not
whole the
supernatural.
Victorian obsession with death and greenery and all that so molded together perfectly in cemeteries. I mean,
Oh
people
yeah.
used to picnic. They used to picnic in cemeteries. Even if your municipality did not turn it into a park, they turned it into a park just by their activities.
Hmm.
So it's pretty wild. And that was across the country at
Yep.
that time.
Which
Yeah.
is what Bonaventure Cemetery ended up becoming. That's a Victorian Garden Cemetery. And I'm also a member of the Bonaventure Historical Society, and we have all these pictures of people just sitting out in burial lots with their picnics and their books
Mhm.
and everything.
Yeah.
Uh, we have just the chat. You're teaching people on the chat right now. Some people from Georgia. I can't pronounce. I was talking about the handles that some people choose for their thing, and it's like, I'm sorry, YOLO. I don't know what you're trying to do with that. I don't know what your boss thinks of that, but YOLO has said she lived in Georgia their entire life. They never knew what you just said. Now, if I could educate just one person from this live, I feel fulfilled. Um, Anika, is there anywhere you won't go?
Uh, I mean, Ellis Square after 9 p.m., but that's not because of ghosts. That's just because there's a lot of bars and it gets a little shooty sometimes. So,
Oh, sure.
uh,
People are. We
I,
always say people are far worse than
oh
spirits.
my God, yes.
Always.
People are like, "What?
Always.
Aren't you scared? Like walking around downtown after dark?" I'm like, "No, I worked in broadcast news for a long time. I know where not to go."
Right. Do you approach how you tell these stories? Are you approaching it as a journalist, a folklorist, or an investigator, or like is there a mix? How do you attack a story these days when you're telling it and for your posts and for everything else?
I do feel like I do bring journalistic integrity to it, um, because doing an investigation, when you do an investigation, you are conducting an interview. You're trying to find out, what this person is, like what their motivation is, why they're here. Um, so conducting it like that, yes. When I'm explaining a story on my tours, I also explain it in kind of a news fashion because the whole point of news is for you to, one, know what's going on in your community, and two, gain a sense of community by understanding the people around you. So when I tell the ghost stories, I want people to relate. I want people to relate to the spirits that I'm talking about. What they went through in their lives and why they are still around. I want them to feel that connection. So it is very newsy, from that regard.
Do you have more locals or more out of towners on your tours?
It comes and goes in waves. It really just depends on the season. I do get a lot of people from out of town, but I do get a lot of locals who reach out to me as well because they have family members or friends coming in and they want a tour.
And this goes to what you were just saying, but when they're done with one of your tours, what are you hoping they've walked away with? A little bit, either chills or history of Savannah or both. What's the vibe?
I love it when I'm telling a story and someone goes, "Ooh, I just got chills," because it lets me know that I'm doing a good job. But at the end of the night, what I really want them to walk away with is a better understanding of Savannah and a better appreciation of it. Because I love the city and I want them to as well.
Uh, it seems like you really focus. Is TikTok your primary
Yeah, it's my
source these
biggest
days?
audience.
Is your biggest one? Where can people find you? What is your handle on there? And
So
I'm going to post this, guys. Everyone, I'm posting. You can find her in my link tree in my bio to get to, but just hit them up now so they know where to find you real quick.
yeah,
What's your?
nothing matches because I didn't start any of this to start a tour company.
I didn't want
I
to say that. I was going to tell you that afterwards that you should really redo that and like make sure
I
everything gets
already
your
have
brand
business
on point.
cards. I already
You
have
know,
business cards.
you know.
um,
But tell everybody where you're at.
but yeah. So on TikTok, my handle is Salt Waves Spanish Moss. On Instagram, I am Enie Edenfield, Eenie Edenfield. And then on YouTube, I'm Enika Edenfield.
Has TikTok changed the way you think about storytelling? You make really good videos. Your videos
Thank
are
you.
high and tight. I mean, I'm new to social media, right? And John's social media is he makes sure that he cuts his feeds. Uh, he doesn't do any editing because he wants people to really understand that there's no trickery here. It's cut from his live. He's a live influencer primarily, and he literally just cuts that section out and gives it to the people so they can see this is what happened.
Mhm.
I try to edit this stuff mainly from the podcast and not really a social media thing. So I really appreciated the short form storytelling you were able to do. Was that something you had to get used to, or
No, that's
how do you
news.
look at it?
I used to have a news director who, anytime anybody would ask for extra time on a story, he would look at them and say, "The entire Vietnam War was told in 30 seconds. You can do this."
That sounds like by the way, how old was that person? That sounds like a real classic
Yeah.
newsman, you know? Just like just a real classic person in the news to give you one of those things.
hmm So I'm used to telling a story in a short amount of time. Um, so what I did before really did lend itself to TikTok, and I've had a few other people who also used to work in news watch my videos, and before looking into me, they were like, "Yeah, she worked in news," and I was like, "Yeah, you can tell, can't you?"
Have you ever thought about becoming a ghost investigator? Like one of the classic paranormal investigator, going out there with the spirit boxes and all
I
that jazz.
I go on paranormal investigations. I also have a Patreon, and one of the tiers is that every month I live stream a paranormal investigation.
Oh, you do? I didn't
Uh,
see that. I didn't find that.
and sometimes I go out places, and then sometimes I'm just here in Savannah. I'll go to a square if it's the off season and there's really nobody there, and set up some equipment and see what we get.
Have you ever got
But
anything that freaked you out?
oh yeah, not anything that freaked me out. There's a spirit from the American Revolution who hangs out in Madison Square, and he does not like me.
Ooh.
Uh, Anytime that he would come through any of my equipment, all he would ever say was "Go away." And earlier this year, I went out to that square, and it's a square, so there's four corners of it. He hangs out in one section. So I was in another section. Spirits were super chatty that night, and I asked them, "Do you know about the spirit over in that area, the one who's always telling me to go away?" And they said, "Yep, that is Benny." And I said, "Benny, all right, Benny, I got a name." So I go back over there, and I said, "Hey, Benny, my name is Enika. Maybe we got off on the wrong foot. If I did something to upset you, I'm so sorry. But can you let me know like what I did so I can not do it again?" And again, all he would say was "Go away." So that is his line. He has set his boundary. I'm respecting that. So I leave Benny alone.
Forever. You don't bother him anymore.
Yeah. That's his little corner of the square.
Do you ever take
And
your tour guides by there just to see if there's like an energy or a vibe?
we go close. We do not go into that section anymore because again, he told me to go away. He's told me that multiple times. So
All right. Now, I asked you earlier,
leave
where
him
do you avoid? That's the place. It sounds like there's another
alone. It's
place
one
without
little
gunshots that you
and
don't go
only after
to.
dark.
Only after dark. Listen, Enika, I appreciate your time. I'm fascinated by history. I love the way you tell it. People should really check out your feed
Thank
and
you.
go to and see and learn something about just a really beautiful city. My wife goes to Savannah for work. Like now, this will be her second year in a row, and unfortunately, I can't get out there with her because I really want to see that town. Where would you like to go beyond? Okay, here's two things. Where would you like to go in Savannah if there is a place you haven't gone yet and really deep dive? And where would you like to go outside of Savannah if you could?
In Savannah, so we have the Savannah College of Art and Design,
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a
and
great school.
yeah, and they're all over the place. They don't have a central campus. They came in the 1970s when downtown was still kind of sketchy, and they started purchasing older buildings and turning them into their campus. So they are spread out. They have a couple of buildings that, if ever given the opportunity, I would love to investigate. One is the current Habersham Hall, which is actually an old jail.
Oh, so it's not
Yeah.
that new. Yeah, they just refurbished it.
Yep. And the other is, I think it's Deloitte Foundry now. Most of us just refer to it as the old Candler because it's the old Candler Hospital. And I have heard so many things about that building, and I would love to go in and investigate that now that it's not falling apart.
Will they let you? Why not go? Is there anything stopping you from going there?
The fact that it's a college campus and I'm not a college student.
Oh, they just won't let you. Just can't talk to them. All right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Now, where outside of Savannah do you want to go?
So there are a lot of places back in my home state of Florida that I would like to go to. Everybody always mentions like these really big places, like penitentiaries and stuff like that. But a lot of people have gone there, and I feel like you've gotten all the answers you're going to get with those places.
Probably true. Yeah.
So I would like to check out the Bellamy Bridge in Marianna, Florida. Um, it is now part of a park, and I actually tagged along with a paranormal investigation crew way before I got into this because it was for a story I was working on, and they got this really eerie EVP. The legend behind that bridge is that Elizabeth Bellamy, on her wedding night, was dancing with her husband, danced too close to an open flame, her dress caught on fire, and she ran down towards the river to try and put it out. And, at night you can see a woman in a flaming dress running down towards the river. Well, while they were doing their investigation, later on they were going through all their recordings, and they heard this very whispery voice say, "Elizabeth." So I would love to go back there now that I have a little bit more experience and see what I can get.
Why are bridges so? What's the bridge in Gettysburg you were at, John? Why are bridges so haunted?
Sachs Bridge.
Which one?
Sachs Bridge.
What's it with bridges and ghosts? Is it because people dive off them? Like, what's going on?
Well, who knows the actual answer to that? But most people would say because it's above a body of water.
Yeah.
What's water have to do with it?
Conductor. They say it's a great conductor for spiritual energy.
No shit.
Well, I mean, water is a dangerous conductor. It's not a great conductor; it's a dangerous conductor with regular electricity.
Sure.
But with spiritual energy, they say it's a great conductor for ghosts and whatnot. Let me ask you a question. You said on your tours that you don't like to dive into the more depressing because you're trying to make your tours fun and whatnot, which I understand completely. But here on Splintered Spirits, I would love to hear about one of these stories that you wouldn't tell on your tours, if you'd be willing to share.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like a quick trigger warning for anybody who's listening. This is going to involve a woman being beaten. But there is a house here in town called the Owens Thomas House. It's a house museum. It's actually the first house museum in Savannah. And they have gone back through and researched a lot of the enslaved people who were there. They actually start the tour behind the home in the old carriage house, which was the quarters for the enslaved people. They start with them, and then they end the tour with them. You go through the house. They talk about them the whole way through, about how, this is the dining room. This is where Peter the butler would have served people. And then at the end, there's a room with all these letters written by members of the Owens family. And in these letters, they are discussing the people they were enslaving. And you read in their own words how they viewed and treated these people. And in some letters, they are talking about how, like, oh, and give my love to the nanny. I can't remember her name right now. And talking very warmly about her. And it's like, you're so close to recognizing her humanity, and you just blow on past it. But then there's another letter where one of the sons had been out late and was walking back home and came across a couple of police officers who were beating a woman. Her name was Janie. She was enslaved by the Owens family, and she had been out past curfew. She had been caught by police officers. They were beating her, and this guy comes up and is like, "Oh, this is Janie." And they asked him, "Do you want to take her home with you?" And he said, "No, do what you're doing." And he walks off and leaves her at the mercy of these people. And they take her back to jail. after beating her, she doesn't get medical attention. And then a few days later, one of the Owens family members goes to get her out of the jail and brings her home.
Yeah, I'd say that's a story you can leave off the tour for
Yeah.
sure.
Wow.
That's a pretty
Yeah.
horrific sort of piece
Wow.
of small town, not small town.
Yeah, I don't blame you for
history
leaving that off the tour.
It's amazing, right? That's all part, and that's there for, like, if you go to the museum, that's there for you to read. That's not something secret.
Yeah,
That's like
yeah,
they don't hide it from the public.
And I tell people, like, because part of my story at the Owens Thomas house involves that room, and I tell people, when you go here, you need to go through this room and read these letters and see how the Owens family viewed them, because this isn't an interpretation of how they viewed them. This is them in their own words. So you can read that and go, oh yeah, it was bad. It was really, really bad.
That's amazing.
Really bad.
There's a lot of great culture in that city, man. I really have to get out there for sure. Anika, thank you so much.
The history is phenomenal with Savannah.
It really is. Anika, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your time with us today. I appreciate it, and I love hearing this. I love getting a little history in. Felt like a very history week, and maybe one people needed to hear in a lot of ways. And know that you're out there sharing it and keeping people informed is really wonderful to know. It's great. It's great stuff.
So you told us the dark, right? You told us a piece of the dark history. What about the light? Anything super positive that you could throw at us and and explain, like, the other side of Savannah, the lighter
That's a good
side.
one. Let's end it on that.
Side.
Let's smart, John.
Always.
Let's end on a fun ghost story or a fun historic story about Savannah that you love. Letting people go out before they grab a drink and get home to their hotels or wherever they're going after your tours.
Sure. So Savannah is also the birthplace of the Girl Scouts, like the Girl Scouts. This is where it started. Juliette Gordon Lowe, the founder of the Girl Scouts, born and raised in Savannah, moved back here after her husband's death. And she had been involved in the Girl Guides in the UK and thought it was a great organization. Because her mom had always encouraged her and her siblings to know how to take care of themselves and also be very community minded. She thought the Girl Guides were doing that. We didn't have any other organization in the United States at that time that was doing quite the same thing. So she called up a bunch of her friends who were running girls' schools in this area and said, hey, it's Juliette. I'm back in town. Bring your girls over. We're going to get something fun started in the carriage house back behind my home. And that is how the Girl Scouts get started.
What's everyone's favorite cookie?
Tagalongs.
Interesting.
I really like Savannah Smiles, and they discontinued that one.
Oh, I'm a samosas person, and I don't even. It's the only thing on earth I'll eat coconut in.
I don't like coconut at all.
I hate coconut, but I'll eat them in
those
cookies.
Me too.
What about you? What about the chat? Anybody? What's your favorite Girl Scout cookie?
It's funny. I have a Girl Scout house where I'm at that's actually haunted. It's funny you bring that up.
And we have her childhood home, which is owned by the Girl Scouts. The home that she was living in when she started the Girl Scouts, that's owned by the Colonial Dames. It's also a house museum. And the carriage house back behind that home is also a museum, and it's also owned by the Girl Scout organization. And all three of them are haunted.
Wow.
Zen with samosas. We got a lot of thin mint lovers.
Very cool.
in this chat.
Well, a lot of people like thin mints. They're never going anywhere.
Thin mints. I got to tell you, I'm saying straight up. I'm sorry. I don't like chocolate and mint. It's not my thing.
Chocolate and peanut butter is my thing.
Yeah, me too, bro. Chocolate with mint isn't for this guy. But I don't judge people for their choice, their poor choices.
No, not at all.
But
they're York peppermint patty taste buds.
Right? It's like, it's not for me, but I like how everyone's going. Shortbread. All right, Nikki. All right. Yep.
Listen, thank you so much for diving into the history like that with us. I mean, this has been an awesome treat to hear about Savannah's history. I'd love to go down to Savannah.
I'm sure we've got a lot of ghost hunters listening right now who are now like, this is going to be their next thing. All the ones that have
right. They're going to head down to Savannah.
Here's a city I haven't thought of. And then hopefully they'll get them down there for you.
Yeah.
to do some invest. You see a lot of guys running around with SB7s and stuff, just
Yeah,
trying to
which
get.
it always cracks me up when I see people walking around with the EMF detectors and they're like, "Oh my God, it's going crazy." I'm like, "It's a city. Everything here puts off electromagnetic frequency." I watched people go nuts next to a tree one time, and I was like, "I know there are electrical lines that run underneath that tree. I know that's what you're picking up on."
Oh,
That's
yeah.
great. Just tell them it's a ghost. Don't break their
Yeah.
hearts. Just tell them it's a ghost.
Yep.
Anika, thank you so much. We're gonna say goodbye to you. I appreciate you, and I appreciate your time again. Anika Edenfield. You can all of her links on all those different handles, which she's gonna work on getting them all to one handle. I hope for
One
her
day.
branding, maybe. But you can
One
find
day. One day.
you can find your TikTok feed in my link tree. Please go follow her. Her videos are great. It's like you'll learn something and you'll actually enjoy it while you watch it. It's not like going to school. It's a good lesson, and it's a great history. Nico, when I say goodbye to you, your browser is still going to upload. Just keep that open for a minute until it says complete, and then we'll be good to go. And again, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Why not? And we'll say goodbye. All right, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, Boxy saying goodbye too.
All right. That was super sweet. I like having a little bit of
Yeah,
a
yeah.
different vibe, different education.
I love history, man. I love history. The people that always present the history are usually, very knowledgeable about it and just, awesome.
Well, she's a broadcaster, right? She comes from a news background. And so if you
Yep.
watch her videos, they are very well put together. They're real, they're smart. It's an excellent high-end production of this quick snippet of a Savannah tale
History.
that it's like and there's a little spookiness to it. It's not all just the ghosts and the apparition. She's talking. It's spooky because it's so old and has all this other weight to it. That was wild, man. So how does that? Hearing sort of that history, John, talk a little bit. We got a few minutes here left. We got some time. I know we started earlier, so we have a little more time. Let's talk about Gettysburg in comparison. What did you learn? What did you find? What are some of the things that make you want to go back? Why do you want to go back now that you've been?
So I definitely want to go back for the simple fact that every second of the live stream, we were just hearing so much. It almost, it was almost like it was layered and also coming in waves. And there's just so much. It seems like there's more than just, Civil War history there. It seems like maybe some things are attracted to that place. I mean, who knows? I just started skimming the surface of
Okay.
Gettysburg. The history, I pretty much knew a lot of it already. But what I did learn before I went, and I didn't realize this until recently, is that New York in itself, which makes a lot of sense because I'm constantly coming across civil war veteran headstones here in New York. Um, they had the most casualties and the most injuries of every state
What did New
on
York?
both sides. New York,
Sure.
and even when we were at Gettysburg,
Dude, New
all
York's
we
the
were
best at
seeing.
everything, dude. We don't go half-ass on everything, even our battle
No,
death. Let's go.
no, even our battle
Let's
death,
go.
right? And literally, and there were so many so many monuments at Gettysburg to New York infantries. It was wild. Like we were walking and point, oh look, New York. Oh look, there's New York again. Oh crap, there's New York again. It was a lot of representation, so it was that. So seeing that, hearing information is one thing, but then seeing it is a
Right.
completely different. So it was that was I thought that was wild history
Megs,
wise.
sorry, John. Megs, you can tell me that you love me, and you don't have to qualify it then by saying you love John too. You could just leave it. You could just give that to me for a minute.
Yeah,
I get it. It's okay.
I can't
Um,
even see the chat.
no, I've got, dude. I got like 4 screens going here.
Yeah.
Because I'm running live on like 4 different
Yeah.
platforms. We'll see, how it plays. Mainly TikTok. It's like they're fun, but it's Well, look, let's be real about Pennsylvania for a second. Pennsylvania as a state is a suburb of New York.
Well, I'd say it's more of a suburb. I'd
Not
say it's more of
Pennsylvania.
a
I love you,
suburb of.
Pennsylvania. I just like hazing Brian the Mod. BTM. If he's
You know,
watching,
it's
he knows I
weird.
like hazing him a little bit.
Pennsylvania is not even a suburb of New York. So it's like it's divided up of all the states around it. You know what I mean?
I think there's like a
It's got
city.
a
There used
little.
to be.
It's
There
got a
used to
little
be a
bit of
city.
Maryland, a little bit of Jersey, a little bit of Delaware, a little bit
There
of,
used to be a city. I'm fairly certain there's a city in Pennsylvania. It used to be called like Fornication, Pennsylvania. Like it was
there
like
is.
this
There
mission
still
lives.
is. I believe that is correct.
Dude, my father told me a story before he died about it in Pennsylvania when he was younger, where he got pulled over. Right? He was young, so I don't know what it had to be the 50s or something. He gets pulled over in some small town. The sheriff makes him drive to the sheriff's, like, whatever, the police department, but it's him. And he's sitting there, and the sheriff then sits in one chair and sort of reads the, what he just did, like the violation. And then the sheriff gets up and sits behind a desk because he's also the judge, and then bangs a gavel and says guilty. And it's like, wait, what just happened? And it's like, and then issued him the ticket, like whatever happened. He didn't go to jail, but it was just, what the hell is going on in this state? This is the North.
But a lot of places were like that.
Yeah,
You
but
know, that also
Pennsylvania's
happened
different.
in. Yeah, Pennsylvania's different.
Just a little
But you don't
different.
even feel like you're in Pennsylvania when you're in Gettysburg. That's the other thing. Like, it's weird. Then again, I don't have that much.
What does it feel like? Where does it feel like you're at?
Well, it didn't feel like it doesn't feel like Pittsburgh. Yin's are different over there in Pittsburgh, right? It didn't feel like
I've never been to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's very industrial, though, right?
the pits. Yeah, definitely industrial. It didn't feel like like Hershey Park area and all that. Because I've been to Hershey Park. Doesn't feel like Philadelphia. It's just
for sure.
Yeah, it's just different. It's just a different
How
vibe.
far away is Gettysburg from Philadelphia?
2 hours about 2 hours.
That's
two
it.
2.5 hours. So
Guys, I love Pennsylvania. I do this because I tease BTM, who I thank for watching over my boy here all the time. But the way I thank people is by hazing them. So I like to haze. And unfortunately, all you Pennsylvanians have to suffer through it because it's the best way to make fun of it. To tease him. So he had a good time too. Did you freak Brian out at all when you were out there?
So we well, first for me, me and Chris had two big firsts, right?
Okay, let's hear it.
Netzel, me and Netzel did a spirit board, which it was Netzel's first time doing a spirit board. And we also did the Esses method.
Oh, dude, I got to see the video. I didn't get to see the video.
I'm going to put that, but I can't get into details about what happened to Brian. But Brian had a very hard experience. Very hard experience. Like it was bad. It was no
you
joke.
But the whole thing was live.
I got the whole thing. The whole thing is recorded.
Is it on YouTube?
Yes, I believe it's on YouTube. I think because I was having a lot of trouble with YouTube streaming. I believe that night is. I know one of the nights is not, but one of the nights is. I think that one is.
I got to see that folder, even if it was on TikTok. You got to put it in a Dropbox folder because we might be able to play with it and make a thing out of it.
Okay, yeah, definitely. Hey, I definitely get him on to talk about it too. I mean, if he's willing. He briefly talked about it, and I'll briefly say what he said. It was just a very personal, wild experience.
With the Estes method or the spirit board?
With the Estes method.
So who did the Estes method?
Spirit board
who was in the chair?
All three of us. All three of us went in the chair.
So did this experience happen when he was in the chair?
Yes. Yeah. We all had experiences when we were in the chair, right? But his experience by far was the most powerful, in my opinion.
Well, because he's surrounded by you and Netzel, who I believe are witch magnets, and then you're probably like forcing that witchness onto his
that witchy sauce all over him,
witch sauce, and it's like he's stuck between these two ADD witch magnets from the north and south, and he's like this stuck in the middle.
Stuck in the middle.
You didn't do that on the bridge, and then forget it.
And then the spirit board was equally as crazy because Netzel had a manifestation of a black bug on his hand. And he even straight up was just like, oh, it's just a bug, And then I ended the board as quickly as possible after that. I was like, nope, we're not doing this.
What does that
And
mean?
because
What does that mean?
that's usually something dark, a demonic entity coming through the board. And the fact that he thought it was a bug, and I'm looking, my eyes are directly on our hands. There was no bug on him, and it's not like he was BSing, because he had a nice little sigh of relief once the bug was off his hand. And I'm like, there ain't no bug, homie. We got to end this board. You know what I mean? We got something bad coming through. So we ended the board, especially because it was his first time, Got to take it easy. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
fun. Did it?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
was there any moments from an investigatory perspective that stood out? You know what I mean? In terms of like in using the apps or the thing, or he's over here and I'm over here, we found the same thing, or was there any sort of moments of ghost documentation or investigation
Yes.
that answered some questions that you were hoping to capture?
Well, so what was wild was the entire time, because when Netzel goes live, he normally runs just Spirit Talker and Necrometer.
Mhm.
And the entire trip, I was switching. I was switching through all the apps, right? I
Okay.
wasn't just using two. But we would be, even if we were next to each other, all four apps were working together, which they're made by different companies. So technically that shouldn't be happening. So we're getting responses from everything, right? Different
Okay.
responses for everything correlating. And then when we would split apart from each other, and we were never that far from each other, just far enough where we could talk a little louder and whatnot. If our questions were being answered by both, so he'd ask something over on his end, and it would be answering on mine, and vice versa. So that was happening too, which I thought was two incredible pieces of evidence for the usage of the apps.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
What about you guys
Yeah.
in the chat? Who has some questions for John about Gettysburg? Does anybody have any questions? Any follow-ups? Now they've had some time to digest it.
Mhm.
Anything you want to know about Savannah? I'm an expert now. Let's give them a second to see if they respond to that.
Yeah.
It's probably got to be a couple seconds because the delay there, delay back.
Yep.
Any soldiers?
But listen, I got a
Specifically?
couple on the thermal. Yeah, I got some crazy stuff on the thermal. So I thought I saw with my own eyes a soldier. I chased after it. Like we had a lot of crazy experiences. But Gary. It was just high energy. Like even like just the ride to the supermarket, we were just balls of energy bouncing all around. Like Brian's a dad, and me and Chris are in the car, just high
Yeah.
energy.
Well, yeah, Chris is like,
So
yeah, for sure. Was someone's at Jones at Joan? There's a handle that makes sense. Joan was asking, was someone bitten?
no.
Okay.
No,
No
we
one was
did
bitten,
get our
Joan.
like shoulders tapped, grab stuff like that. But I don't think anybody was bitten.
Okay, no one was bitten, Joan. Everyone's safe.
Yeah,
Ooh,
I
movie
don't
cat.
think
That's
anybody
pretty
was bitten.
good. Now I'm obsessed with looking at everybody's name because it's
Yeah, you're
like
looking at everybody's hand off.
Squirrel Nut Sniffer. That one made me
Yeah,
laugh so hard. And you get like an email saying Squirrel Nut Sniffer has left you a message. There's BTM. He's sitting there watching. He's getting it. That's Brian the Mod, for anyone who doesn't know.
Brian Tenda.
Yeah, why do you change his name? What does that mean?
I called him that. I called him
Oh,
Brian
okay.
Tender. I'm trying to remember why, but I'm having trouble, but it's stuck. So Brian Tender it is.
Something you
I
can't
said
share?
something.
Little secret inside
Or
joke?
no, or he said something. I don't know. It's just funny moments,
It's funny moments.
We have funny moments.
It's curious. We'll have to get Brian's take on the whole thing being around the two of you guys.
Yeah.
And then we got to get Chris back on because I still believe
Yeah.
Netzel may have captured the greatest thing I've ever seen in terms of a ghost, which that walking thing, which is wild. But I want to get him on and show that thing is the coolest.
Yeah, it was pretty wild.
That is one of the clearest things, and it's nuts. What else did we talk? Anybody else have anything? Nobody has any other questions? Oh, sorry. Well, then let's talk. We're about to wrap it up, so let's talk about what's coming up. Next week on Splintered Spirits is Past Life Regression Week. Not that that's going to be a standard thing, but just so happens to work out. I interviewed Myra Rath, past life regression therapist. You can find her at Soul Signs Hypnosis, and she gives me a crash course on past life regression. And then on next Thursday's live, we have another psychic medium, Heidi Kemper, who also does a lot of work with what in that field of study are the Akashic records. You know what those are, John? Have you ever heard of this?
Yeah. That's
The
the
Akashic
whole.
records I compare, if you're a Marvel fan, for those who don't know, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the what was it called? What's it called? Where Loki,
The
like the
TVA.
TV,
It's
the
like the TVA.
TVA, the
It's
file
basically
room for your life, for
of
all of your lives,
of
all
all life,
all
of
life,
all life.
and
Essentially, that's what
but
it is. Like all life, universe, spanning, like everything.
it's a big. It must be it's
Yeah.
the Library of Congress for life, but especially like your own
Yeah.
life, every reiteration of your life. And I find past life regression real. It's just funny how the progression of this podcast and what we're talking about, all these pieces fit somehow when you start. And things are going to get quantum soon. Just by coincidence, some of the people we're talking to and how they get into that thing. And I got to read a few more books on it.
Yeah.
As I recommend everybody read some books. All these people's books are in my link tree, guys. Check them out. I think you're going to see. It's really quite fascinating, but we come back to energy, frequency, and when we start talking about past life regression, you're talking, that's another dimensional thing. Past life is a misnomer. I used to think when you say past life regression to me, it's like 100 years ago, or in the Middle Ages, I was a knight, which probably wasn't. Dude, there's no way I was a knight in the Middle Ages. I was probably like the piss boy or something. There's no possible way holding a bucket for some royalty. That was not a knight, but I thought it was like that, like something that this is what you were years ago, but it's not. Past life regression is everything everywhere all at once. There's multiple versions of yourself and timelines of yourself. And then this also goes into potentially alien life and that whole thing with this connection, which we start talking to. I mean, it's getting crazy over here at Splintered Spirits, folks. It's getting really, I didn't know what I was getting. I got to admit, I didn't know what I was getting into when I stepped into these first questions a year ago.
Yeah.
Even though we launched in February, I didn't know what I was getting into, but it's nuts.
Wild. There's
Karen,
a lot.
what are those books called? Karen, go check out the link tree in Splintered Spirits bio, and you will see all the books of all of our guests and all of their websites that we look at and that sort of our go-to for understanding. A lot of them. And read a fucking book once in a while, guys. Pick up a book.
Read a book.
Read a fucking
Gary,
book, man.
it's been fun.
It's been
excellent
good.
Guest.
Everybody, Splintered Spirits again, Tuesday, new episode with Myra Rath. Next Thursday,
5 a.m. it drops.
Kemper. And guys, thank you for watching. We really appreciate you. Tell a friend, like, share, subscribe. Much appreciated. And our guest, Anika Edenfield. Check her out. She was amazing. All right, everybody. John, it was good chatting with you. I appreciate it.
Gary, love it.
I got so many things to shut off. The lives are always difficult, but we'll figure it out as we do.
We'll
John,
figure it out.
I'll talk to you, man. See you, buddy.
Gary, I'll talk to you later.